next to him, and I was like coming out one morning, and I didn't like expect him to like be up as early as me. And when I opened the door, he was standing outside my door with a kitchen knife and was in a diaper, and just like that image will forever be burned into my fucking mind. And he tried to stab me, but I mean, he's 89 at this point, so it was just kind of like, no, Grandpa, like, I'll take that from you.
The suppression of the use of marijuana and of the forces lurking behind it are the most important jobs this department is now engaged in. In 1930, the records on marijuana in the Washington office of the Narcotics Division scarcely filled a small folder like this. Today, they fill cabinets.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, Coloradians and everyone that's smart enough to listen from the outside.
One of the most amazing plants we've ever discovered.
The pot party, the trippers, the grasshoppers, the hip ones, all gathered in secrecy and flying high as a kite.
Anthony,
I knew
that may be the wildest intro to a podcast I have ever heard. That last 6-minute tutorial where we kind of bipped and bopped, but we'll have to cut that out and put that later in this episode. So for those that are listening, welcome back to another episode of Stoned Appetit. That voice you heard was Anthony Lopiccolo, chef owner here at Goed Zuur. You may have seen it on our social media, but if you didn't, it's a restaurant that's quaintly down here on 28th and Welton Street. So just past where the lights end at Welton Street Cafe, which everyone knows for its long-standing fried chicken. Just down there is what I'm going to call a diamond in the rough. It's a sour beer bar, it's a cheese bar, it's a natural wine bar, and then they also play the hits. It's a fucking vibe. And they do seasonal menus that we had to come talk about. After eating it, getting to meet Chef, I was just like, all right, we got to do a podcast. And so that's what we're doing today. But before we do, we want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors and to Chris. Chris is traveling in all this gnarly weather this week, so he is not going to be on the podcast, so we wish him well when he listens to this when he gets back. Yeah, so if you want to say anything about the co-host, about past episodes, because I know you're a loyal listener, this is a great opportunity to do it because he can't defend himself. But at the same time, let's give a quick shout out to our sponsors. Seed & Smith. We love these guys. Y'all know that we love these guys. We've been piping their weed for a hot minute because it's the best weed we can find recreationally. It's at least top tier. It's top tier. And you know what? Their dart pen is definitely my favorite. I don't have to argue that. It is my favorite. The weight, the size, the shape, it keeps you from throwing it away. Put it in the washing machine. You don't lose it as easily in a jacket. It's much easier to keep a hold of than a Roku remote or one of those 510 threads. And these guys are piping. They have fantastic live series that just got put into the 500 darts or maybe the 1000s as well. So those things are flying like hotcakes. You can go to www.seedandsmith.com to see where the closest location to get your dart pens or their flour. And then, of course, you can always go check out their 2 brick and mortar buildings. The one on Oakland Street out near the airport. So if you're picking up friends or family, ski buddies maybe, like Chris, go ahead and stop into the Seed & Smith, pick up the pens, pick up your weed. You got it. And then their second location's up in Louisville and Hecla. On Heckler Way, 1413 Heckler Way. It's their flagship location. It looks like a fucking Apple store. The place is gnarly. You can get in there. You can get comfy threads. You probably run into a Kardashian or two. But at the same time, they have all of the selection. If you want just your basic ripples like we talked about a couple of weeks ago on the pod, or if you're looking for something specific, they've got something for you. It's an Apple store. Whew. And then our second sponsor, before we get to Anthony, is our friends over at Callie's Cannabis. Callie's is teaming up with us for our dinner series that sold out in record time, I think. Record because it is our first one, but we're excited about it. And we know that Charles has got some serious flower cooking. So Charles has 3 dispensaries in Denver. They're named after his, it's a family-run operation, named after his mother, Callie's Cannabis. We like the location on 31st and Larimer. It's a great spot to just check into if you're going to dinner, maybe on Welton Street, or if you're just running the gauntlet that is the Chadville on Larimer Street these days. At least be smoking good weed. It's imperative that at least you do that if you're down there. So check them out. That's Callie's Cannabis, 3 locations. They have one in North Glen. They have one location in Rhino, like I said, 31st and Larimer, and a third location at 777 Kenosha Court. So about mid-city, right off Federal. Go over there, grab some tacos or a burger. Good as gold. All right. Whew. Usually I have a co-host to help me with this, but it's all right. Let's get to our guest. That voice you heard earlier is Chef Anthony Lopiccolo. I can't believe I went 2 for 2 right there.
That's not too bad.
I did it right?
Yeah, Lopiccolo.
I said it right?
Yeah.
I mean, you have a better accent than I do.
Don't have an accent. I mean, Midwest accent.
Yeah, you have an accent, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean...
Say ope.
Ope?
Ope. Well, you don't say it as emphatically as some of the Midwesterners.
But, Michigan...
Oh, are you a Youper? Or is that not a Youper. That's a little higher up.
Like Youpers, that's upper Michigan, and that's Canada at that point.
Eerily the same. Are you a Jets or a Little Caesars guy? Hard-hitting questions here on the pod.
No, super easy one. Jets Pizza's the other half of my family. Like, my parents owned a Carlo's Pizza. My mom's cousin Carlo, he started that up with his brother Eugene in the 70s. And there was just, like, some wild-ass pictures that they would have at the original Carlo's. They do a fundraiser every year for the Jerry Lewis telethon, and there was just pictures of my Uncle Carlo, like, on stage with Jerry Lewis, just, like, handing him one of those big checks from Carlo's Pizza. And he was on platforms.
Wait, so what's Carlo's Pizza for those that maybe are from the deep south and don't have... We didn't even have Jets. I learned that out here.
So Carlo's Pizza was the pizza faction on my mom's side, but her other cousins were the Jets families.
So y'all had like the Capulets and Montagues of pizzas going on in Detroit in the 80s?
But this is where it even gets more entwined. Carlo's was before Jets. The kids that started up
Jets. This is going to be like Pat's and Gino's at the end of this episode.
The kids that started up Jets worked for Carlo at the original Carlo's, like off of Grospec. And so they were like stock boys and would make pies and whatnot. And they grew up. They were, I think they all went to like Michigan State, went to business school there. And when they came out, and they're like, "What are we gonna do?" Well, pizza's in the blood. We know how to do this, but took more of a business approach. Carlo was not known for his business acumen. It was what ultimately toppled him out of all of his locations. That and massive cocaine use. And
it was the 70s.
Oh, yeah. And those Jerry Lewis telethon pics, he was high to the fucking sky on coke. Like, you looking at Uncle Carlo up there, he's an absolute savage.
It's not like Jerry Lewis isn't.
In that time period where I was when I was living back, yeah, but
every single MLB player.
That did not age out of him.
Oh, well, that may be not good.
But
so, we kind of talked a little bit about it earlier, but you obviously come from a food family. What made you, how'd you come to Colorado, and what kind of was it always that you were going into the restaurant scene?
I started in food when I, cooking professionally at 11. My dad quit his job at Orkin doing pest control, lawn control stuff that he had been doing pretty much ever since he came out of high school. I know he went to some trade school or something, but he was shitty with his hands, building things, absolutely terrible. I'm the same way. Nobody here at work will let me do anything besides for the cooking.
You don't get to play with this big toy?
That's fine. Operating the stuff, fine. Fixing anything doesn't go super well. Hanging pictures, I don't do that very well. Light bulbs, I'm pretty good with screwing in light bulbs, but that's maxed out capacity as far as handyman stuff goes. More about cooking.
That's all. I can respect that. You found what works for you.
I am
can't
an amazing
do any
50s
of those
housewife.
Things. There you go.
You want cooking, you want cleaning, love folding up laundry.
I bet you're a great roommate, spouse, partner in that instance.
I clean up after you constantly.
And that's kind of impressive. But at the same time, you also have this access to fresh bread and cheese and butter, which I think would make everybody happy. So you got a couple benefits there going for you.
I look at these old bread pictures that we have from here on Instagram, embarrassing. Like, to where our bread program is at now, like, I think our baguette's possibly, like, best in the city.
Well, I mean, it's probably like every team thinking they're going to win the Super Bowl. If you don't think if you're not going out there to win the fucking football game and try to go to the playoffs and win the Super Bowl, then what are we doing here? Like, everyone strives to be the best, and I'm not an aficionado by any means, but I fucking love y'all's bread. I love everybody's bread.
I do love.
I'm a bread slut.
I like good bread, man, though. But it's like, if it's done poorly, come on.
Like, I'll eat it from Safeway or Kroger.
Yeah, I'm not talking about sponge breads. I'm just saying people that are trying to, like, charge you, like, $7, $8 for a piece of bread, and, like, the bread is trash. And it's convincing yourself that that bread is good and saying, like, I'm going to definitely put, like, a nice price tag on this and make somebody pay for this bread. It's like, no, that's a start-over bread. And, like, I look at our first bread here, and that was start-over bread. Shouldn't have been putting that out. Like, I look back at, like, a lot of old things, the way that we plated cheese, like, our thought process as far as, like, the food went. But what we do now is nothing like we thought.
Well, before we get to go, Ed, let's
be.
talk a little bit about the food journey. Like, where did we start in the Denver scene? How did you kind of come to be? You didn't jump straight from 11 to owning this restaurant. So how'd you come? What year did you come to Colorado?
Sorry, I'm getting sidetracked, man.
No worries. I just didn't want to jump the gun. I bet most people would be like, well, how did he get in the food scene from Jets? So tell us a little bit about your journey through Colorado. You worked for Brunson, eh?
Yeah, through Colorado, like Justin, but it was like Detroit to Boston, Boston to Tallahassee, Tallahassee to San Diego, San Diego to Denver.
Here in
land
Colorado.
in Colorado. For my first stint in Colorado, the first year and a half, I was working with Mark Carmine at Euro. I think it's like a basement spot there. Cobian, they occupy that same space now.
Okay.
But that place was savage. Dude who owns Dish Network owned that, and it's like we did garbage numbers and had like really nice French food for like there being no customers whatsoever. And
like
it was
still
just
put out bangers and nobody was there for him just because he wanted to have a nice.
He's just like, hey, when I come in with people, I just want to like have my restaurant and have like a place to keep my like super dope wine collection. Which, like, the rumor always was, like, below his house, like, he had, like, dug down, like, 3 floors, and it was just, like...
It's like Shanahan.
Different flight, like, areas of, like, his wine collection, like, at each floor, all set at different temperatures and humidities. The actual, like, validity of that story, neither here nor there, but it was a fun story to tell.
So, okay, so you've kind of had a little bit of experience working across a broad range of restaurants?
Bounced out of Euro, back to Michigan. I'm working at like divey-ass bars and shit like that. It sucked. It was like a weird period of my life. But
and then came back to Colorado.
Main focus was Grandpa at that point. Then came back to Colorado after that. My buddy Galen, he was part of like OG Fruition crew.
Shout out to Alex.
Yep, fucking Big A is the man.
Dude.
Like, had lots of good times with that dude. And also like opened up my eyes on a lot of things as far as food go. Like, I want to talk like farm to table stuff. Like, those guys pushed it, and yeah, they put out some amazing things and had amazing moments with great teams there over time. Justin, like when he worked in that kitchen for that short period of time, he's so big that like the logistics of him fitting into that kitchen didn't work. Everywhere he turned, he was like bumping into shit. Like Galen was telling me about how Justin one time was like working a torch, like bruleeing something, and like was just like so like into it that just like would set the torch back up on the counter facing the wall, and he like set the wall on fire like twice in one service at Fruition, and like that hole was there for years.
Hey, I mean, Justin leaves marks on every restaurant he works with, and so that's just, another, it's a great story as well.
Galen turned me on to Justin, go to Masterpiece, start clicking with them about 6 months after they opened.
Oh, that deli was so good. For those that remember, it was where where Main Shack is now. Next door.
Main Shack
next
is
door.
Next
yeah, so it was right there on that high
right
corner.
Right now, Masterpiece is empty. I rode by there today.
Oh, the sign is still, like the imprints on the windows are on there.
Everything is still there. Like, it's just like a tomb of sadness driving past that place. But I mean, if you want to talk about like savagery inside of a kitchen, like that, like before they built like